Good evening and welcome to this session of the virtual coaching classes organized by the Board of Studies of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. A lot of people are here already and putting in their attendance. Alok is here. Welcome, sir. Dhyanesh, good. Sapnaji is here. Abhishek Pandey, good evening, sir. Pranav is here. And I have Ms. Tawhida, Harshit Jaiswal, new names, and Mr. Patsardi, good evening, sir. And so most of you are coming in. Good. In the meantime, before we begin, as usual, let's chant a small, invocation to protect us from the God of, rather to invoke the blessing of the God of internet. Sahana bhavatu, sahana bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahi, tejasvina vadhitamastu, mahavidvishavahi, om shanti, shanti, shanti. Yes, thanks to your extraordinarily good cooperation, and I hope you truly could understand charges and all that. And if you still have doubts, kindly don't feel free to ask me any doubt today. Luckily, we could complete the topic on charges, registration of charges. So we are going to enter a new topic today, which is interpretation of statutes, deeds, and documents. Interpretation of statutes, deeds, and documents. Definitely complicated, but interesting. Very legal. I would say it's extremely legal topic. But if you understand the principles as usual, in the way I always talk about, once you understand the basic principles, it's going to be easy. Now, you might ask me, and again, welcome to Tejas, Sejurvedi, okay, and Ms. Priyanka, welcome Priyanka ji. So you might ask me, why should I learn this? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to practice at the bar, nor am I going to sit on the bench. Bar means where the lawyers sit. That place is called the bar. And because actually, between the judge's seat and the lawyers and the public area, there will be a barricade. So these people sit at the bar and the judges sit on the bench. They used to sit in those days, when the Britishers actually used to go around and the lords used to go to the various assizes and render justice, the law lords, they used to sit on a bench. And that's why they are called the bench. The judges are called the bench and the lawyers are called the bar. So neither am I going to be part of the bar, nor am I going to be sitting on the bench. Why do I need to understand interpretation of statutes? Let me make it sort of relevant to you. When you become a practicing chartered accountant or even a very successful financial controller of a large organization, you are going to deal with a lot of legislation on a continuous basis. You will have to read law and you will have to understand the fine print and you will have to interpret it. Okay, for your company, for your management, for your client, whatever it is to earn your livelihood, somewhere you will need to. For example, if some of you dream of specialize, and as you rightly should, that you will want to specialize in taxation, indirect tax, direct tax, etc., 100% you will need to be familiar with reading statutes. Statute means law, act of parliament. Okay, we already saw this. Anyway, once I just explain it to you. Statute means law. A law made in parliament is called statute. Until it becomes a law, it is called a bill. Once it is passed in both the houses of parliament, gets the assent of the president, is notified, and from the effective date on which it is notified, it becomes act of parliament, law. Whatever it is, you will have to understand and read statutes. Similarly, you will have to read deeds, means sale deed, lease deed, etc. would come to you. Clients may ask you to help them to understand it, or sometimes you might have to even draft it. In fact, I've done a lot of drafting, though Institute is not insisting on you to learn drafting as part of your syllabus. Believe me, we do partnership deed drafting, lease agreement drafting, except sale deed we don't do because sale deed would amount to immovable property. So we prefer to give it to the lawyers. Short of that, memorandum of understanding, I have drafted more than 100 or 200 of them. So drafting is different. Once a deed or document is drafted, then there is a dispute on it. You have to read it and understand what is it that the original persons, the signatories intended. What was the intention? What did they want to do? That would be clear in only by reading that document or deed. So interpretation is very important. And as a chartered accountant, you need to understand the need for interpretation of statutes. Having accepted that you need to know this topic, then I can talk to you about the rules of interpretation. These are a little boring and complicated, but basically you have two primary rules and certain secondary rules. Okay. And then when you are actually looking at a document, there are certain aids or certain assistance that you can get within that document or act, which is called internal aid. Or you may have to go outside. What these are, we will see. Okay. So finally, there are certain basic rules for interpretation of deeds and documents. All the rules that we will be seeing are for acts of parliament, statutes. Those rules will by and large apply for interpretation of deeds and documents also. But the slight difference is that deeds and documents are written by human beings at a point in time. Whereas acts of parliament are passed in parliament, most of them are public. For example, if you want to know what was the intention of parliament at the time of passing of the act of parliament, one very good external aid for me is the speech given by the minister. When the finance minister introduces the budget in parliament, the new finance act, she will give a presentation. She will give a speech, the introduction, which is very important. It is not relevant unless there is an ambiguity. We'll come to that very relevantly. But if there is a doubt as to what is it this section is talking about, we can definitely go there and find out what was it that this parliament intended. What was the intention of the legislator at the time of passing the law? That could be relevant. Please be very careful. That could be relevant only if there is an ambiguity in the law. I'm going to repeat this ad nauseum. So you don't escape that area and come to me. If the law is clear and unambiguous, no question of interpretation, obey it. Only when there is ambiguity, you can go for interpretation. This is something you have to accept, because the minute you go outside of that and talk about intentions, you are out. I'll give you one example also. Recently, there is a nice case law that I saw recently where, this intention has been, I think it was the Supreme Court. I'll check up. I have it's a beautiful article. I'll talk to you about that. Where they say intentions are all not important. Act is clear. You do what it says. Period. Okay. Like that. Yeah. Mr. Shankaran, Iniya Male Vanakkam, sir. From Nellore, SRO. Thank you, sir. Inakonda, Ananta Sri, Lakshmi, Saudhanya. Welcome. 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 Okay. So, and Harshit Jaiswal. Welcome. Welcome. So, fantastic topic. If you really put your mind to it, it's easy. Of course, a lot of content on my slide, but that's because the institute material I cannot ignore. Then one of you will say, sir, it is there in the material, it is not. So better I thought I will take it. But the essence of it is simple, boss. Statutes are there. If they are clear and unambiguous, no problem, obey them and go. When there is an ambiguity, check out, is there a possibility that you can get a benefit? Then test the ambiguity. That's all. Try to find out if you can use it as a, within quotes, loophole to say that the law doesn't apply to you, something like that. Okay. So, to the common man, the term statute generally means the laws and regulations of every sort. Okay. Statute has been defined, means state government or central government, whatever, it is called statute. The written will of the legislature. I already mentioned to you, the legislative authority in India is the Parliament of India. Okay. The legislative authority in India is the Parliament. Statute signifies written law, in contradiction to unwritten law, custom. Please don't, unwritten law. See, there are three main sources of law. One is statute law, which is law made in parliament, written and published and known. Another is custom. It's not written, but it has been consistently followed since time immemorial. This is how we have been doing it. Things like that. These are called custom and usage. Generally, thanks to the British, who respected custom and usage, we also generally respect custom and usage. Where there is a custom which is being followed for time immemorial, it will be generally followed. The law would support it rather than defeat it. But you have to show that this has been consistently followed since time immemorial. And of course, it should not violate the directive principles of state policy. For example, untouchability has been followed consistently since time immemorial. No, that cannot become acceptable because specifically there is a prohibition against such things. Okay, directive principles of state policy, etc. are there. For example, widowry, sati, performance of sati, all that, even at the stage of Raja Ram Mohan Rai, it has been banned by the British law. So don't try to revive customs merely by saying it has been consistently followed. The idea is some certain small things, where you have been always doing it this way and the law is not contradicting it, you can continue. One example is the hundi system. Later on, when you come to Negotiable Instruments Act, you will see the hundi system, which was prevalent in the western part of our country, right from the, Konkan coast right down up to the Malabar coast, where they were dealing with on the Gulf, that part, they had something called the hundi system. So this hundi system, the Negotiable Instrument Act specifically protects it and says whatever has been followed by merchants as a practice will continue. They can do it. That will not be illegal like that. They have told. So such things are there. You can't just like that, say this. Similarly, when it comes to religion, generally British were very careful. Remember, before you enter interpretation of statute, I'm not teaching you from the institute material, but I'm just giving you a lot of content. That content will definitely be explained based on my experience only. Don't worry. I never teach dry from the institute material. Okay. I'm using the slide only to give me some fix on what I have to talk. That's all. Okay. So the statute, coming back to the point I was making, custom and usage is a very complicated matter, but nevertheless, while you are there, remember, all our laws are based in British law. Because the British ruled us for 200 years, they gave us this law. Therefore, most of it would be having a British trend as against an American trend. So our laws are not, because the Americans, anything that the British would do, the Americans would do the opposite. Since we follow the British systems, most of the time our law would be sort of non-aligned with American or European systems. Okay, because we follow the British system. Though the correction is slowly happening to align ourselves to European, at least European, if not US. Anyway, the third source of law is precedent. We will not be covering that in this, just for your information. Precedent. Statute, law made by Parliament. Custom, which has been followed since time immemorial. Precedent. Law as stated by courts. Judges. Judge-made law. The judges have read the law, interpreted it. Because there is an ambiguity, they said, this is what the law should be. Even though the law is like this, we say that this is the intention. When that is given, or in a given situation, this is how it should be done. That is called judge-made law or precedent. A precedent will be valid. Supreme Court decisions are valid all over the country. State High Court decisions are definitely binding in that state. Other High Courts can take cognizance. They may differ also, but they may follow. They may say, we follow, or they might say we respectfully dissent, and they can give their own view, like that, conflicting decisions. That is what gives fun to all your tax experts. Keep on doing this and all that. Okay. So, but then as you keep coming down the hierarchy, everybody so Madras in Tamil Nadu, tribunal, everybody should follow Madras High Court. There's a Gujarat High Court decision, Madras Tribunal can say, hey, let's see, but if you have a Madras High Court decision, show me. Some things like that they can talk. Supreme Court, nobody can talk. This is called judge-made law. Okay, this is the significance of case laws. Right? Just for your information. So 3 sources are there. Okay. Other than this, there is no way you can make law. Unless you take stick and hit everybody, that is also one type of law. Gunda law. Okay, that is not a valid law. Okay, there is no sane, democratic, educated people would encourage Gundaism and or Gunda law. Okay. Good show. So, the word document has been defined in 2 enactments. The General Classes Act, which we'll be seeing very shortly, and the Indian Evidence Act. Both these laws, British made laws, especially the Indian Evidence Act was drafted by a man called Macaulay, Lord Macaulay, who also drafted the Indian Contract Act. See, all the Indian. Indian Evidence Act, Indian Contract Act. Okay. Why? Because these were drafted by Britishers in the British Parliament for India. So they said Indian Evidence Act is applied only to the dominion of India, which was ruled by the British. So document means any matter expressed or described upon any substance by means of letters, figures, or marks, or by more than one of those means. See, I have highlighted that part of it. See, Macaulay, I'm sure many of you have a bad opinion about Macaulay, thanks to WhatsApp and all that. And I do agree that Macaulay could have been guilty of colonial approaches, etc., etc. But he made good laws. The laws are so strong that till date, these laws cannot be amended. Our parliament is unable to come out with better law. They have messed up the Companies Act. They are still unable to mess up the Indian Evidence Act or the Indian Contract Act because the words are so beautiful, so all-pervasive. See, 1872, Macaulay is writing on parchment paper, rag paper. Paper was very, very, that you don't have the type of paper that you have today. Just kagas, just like that, we tear it and throw it. In those days, paper was a precious thing. It was made with rag and it was they wrote with quill pens, 1872. No pen, refilling pen comes later. Ball pen, even more. What is that? Roller ball, even more. These people dipped their pen, the quill, nib with a feather up behind it. I think I have one here. See, this is a type of pen they used. This is called the quill pen. I purchased it in Venice in Italy. This is a quill pen. I don't know if you can see this. So this is a quill pen. We dip it in an ink bottle and we write. So this is what Macaulay wrote with. And that man says, any matter expressed or described upon any substance. He doesn't say on paper. He says on any substance by means of letters, figures, marks, or by more than. He understood that, computers are going to come. Digital media is going to come. Different types of impact and non-impact printers are going to come. Whatever you do, if you put any matter on any substance by means of letters, figures, or marks, even marks, mind it. Letters are okay, A, B, C, D, E, F. E, E, okay. Figures, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Marks. Even marks are covered. Or by more than one of those means, any combination, intended to be used or which may be used for the purpose of recording that matter. So, anything on which something is noted or marked becomes a record. And it is, why he gives it here? Because under the Indian Evidence Act, he wants to make out what is documentary evidence. So he says this is documentary evidence, document. So this is for evidence purpose. Under the General Clauses Act, they want to be clear whenever we use the word document in any law, other than Indian Evidence Act, document shall include. See, this is an inclusive definition. We'll be seeing it a little later in interpretation itself. Include, meaning we are not giving a complete definition. Anything is there, but these things are included. So shall include any matter written, expressed, or described upon any substance by means of, see, it's written 1897. Obviously, they would have followed Macaulay, right? So, upon any substance by means of letters, figures, or marks, and by more than one of those means, which is intended to be used or which may be used for the purpose of recording this matter. So, when any substance is used and on which we are expressing any letters, figures, or marks to create a record, it becomes a document. Okay, interesting. Okay. Here, 100%, I doubt if our friend Abdul can ask any question on this because there is no complication here, but try to understand the beauty of and the greatness of the heritage which we have inherited from the British. Okay, so we saw what is statute, we saw what is document. Now we go to the word instrument. Instrument is a formal legal document which creates or confirms a right or records a fact. Lease agreement is a formal legal document. It's an instrument. It creates a right for the lessor, the right to receive rent, for the lessee, to the right to occupy the premises for all legitimate purposes. Two rights are confirmed. Okay. Also, sometimes I might merely state facts and put them on a stamp paper, and that's called affidavit. Merely recording a fact. Okay, merely recording a fact also is possible. where I can simply record a fact. It's called affidavit, where I make a solemn declaration and I say, whatever I've stated here is true to the best of my knowledge and belief. It is called an affidavit. And that's a record of a fact. Whatever it is, it's called an instrument. It is a formal writing of any kind, such as an agreement, charter, or record drawn up and executed in a technical form. It also means a legal document having legal effect. Okay, so it may create a liability or afford evidence of it sometimes. Always remember, whenever a right is created, there's a corresponding obligation. Let's go back to my lease example. The lessor gets the right to receive rent. Automatically, the lessee has the duty to pay the rent. The lessee gets the right to occupy the property and to use it for his lawful and legitimate purposes. The lessor has the duty to ensure that he can do so. Quiet possession. He should ensure that the ownership of the title to the property is clean, so that the lessee will not be evicted. He should be able to enjoy. So every right carries an obligation. When these rights and obligations are documented in form of a technically drafted document, legal document, it is called instrument. The Indian Stamp Act states that instrument includes every document by which any right or liability is or purports to be created, transferred, extended, extinguished, or recorded. Right or liability. Here, the word liability, don't confuse it with your accounting liability. That is what you owe money and all that liability. Here, liability is an obligation to do something. An obligation to do something is called liability. Right? Wonderful. Now, I gave one example of instrument. Lease agreement is an instrument. Affidavit is an instrument. Everything is an instrument. You keep on like Amir Khan in 3 Idiots. I have to see machine. This is machine. That is machine. Like that. Everything is an instrument. Ultimately, any legal document is an instrument, sir. Any legal document, you name it, it's an instrument. I'm telling you. In fact, that is why after the recitals are over, then there will be one line say, now, therefore, this instrument witnesseth as follows. Almost all are instruments. Okay. If they satisfy this example, they are instruments. Now we come to deed. See, instrument, deed. Deed is slightly restrictive. An instrument in writing or other legible representation or words on parchment or paper. Here they are saying parchment or paper. That is a legal glossary. Okay. Please note, deed is a document. Instrument is a document. Within the meaning of our Evidence Act and General Clause Act, all instruments are documents, deeds are instruments. Okay. So we are going in the hierarchically. First is a document, which will include everything, whether creating legal relationship or not. For example, I have a notebook. I have a notebook where I write poetry. Hey, that is a document, yeah. Okay. There is a journal where I write my daily experiences. That is a document, yeah. Right. That's a document. That could be evidence later for something. I do not know in a criminal investigation. But the point I'm making is that's a document, but it's not an instrument. Now, I have let out my flat in Old Mahabalipuram Road. Now, there I have entered into a lease agreement with the lessee. That is an instrument which creates a legal right and obligation which both of us are meeting. Then, when I purchase a property, I have got a sale deed. Okay. That is, I am getting a very, very important right. Deeds are instruments, though all instruments may not be deeds. Okay. Strictly speaking, the word instrument is bigger than deed. In deed, what happens is, there is some right relating to immovable property which is being conveyed. A deed is one by which a right in immovable property will be conveyed. Okay, meaning sale deed, lease deed, mortgage deed. We saw yesterday in charges, same thing, mortgage deed. Because when the mortgagor creates a mortgage, he is giving a limited interest or limited title in that immovable property. When I have given my land and building to the bank as a security and it has been offered as a security and they have registered the MOD, then there is a Deed. They will make a mortgage deed. That mortgage deed is a deed. Why? Because a limited interest or limited title to my property is being conveyed to the mortgagee. How? In case I don't repay the loan, they get the right to sell the property. To that extent, they have a right now. That is called, if you have a paper, write down what I'm saying. It is called limited interest in property. A lessee has a limited interest in the property to the extent of his lease rights. If you have got a lease deed for 3 years, for 3 years you have a limited interest. Nobody can evict you unless you are not satisfying the condition or not paying the rent. Short of that, nobody can come near you. It's a limited interest. You understand? So when that is being communicated or conveyed, it is called a deed, right? So there is this thing. Under the Indian Stamp Act, deeds have to be stamped under the Stamp Act. But instruments optional to stamp. Okay. Okay. Since you are interested in learning, I will ask you one question and see how much you know. In case, see, now agreement, instrument need not be stamped. For example, if a lease agreement is less than 12 months, up to 11 months, no need for stamping. It need not be on stamp paper. It need not be registered. You understand? It need not be registered. There is no compulsory registration up to 11 months. 12 months and above, it has to be compulsory registered. It's a deed. This is a subtle distinction. Up to 11 months, instrument only. It is not a deed. But 12 months and above, deed. It becomes a deed. And it has to be registered under the Registration Act, Indian Registration Act. Many people don't know this. They will enter into 3-year lease without registration and without stamp paper. What happens if I do not stamp even 11 months lease? There's no need for registration. But if it is not on the appropriate stamp paper, which is 20 rupees in Tamil Nadu, if it is not on the appropriate stamp paper, what happens? What will be the legal consequences? You can put it on the query pad. It's not stamped. Less than 11 months, it's not registrable compulsorily. It's on white paper. It is not stamped. But the stamp duty is 20 rupees. But it's not stamped, optional. You never not put it. What will happen to it? What will be the fate of that document or that instrument? Today we are going to be getting into very detailed law. Okay? So you may have to. The lessor can force the lessee to vacate the place. A lessor can always force the lessee to vacate the place. But when the lessee goes to court, this document will not have any evidentiary value. Unstamped document cannot be absolute. See, we saw now it is conclusive evidence. Suppose it was stamped, then that lease, you don't have to prove it from first principles. That lease agreement itself is proof, evidence that there was a lease. Whereas this unstamped document is only supplementary evidence. It will not be conclusive evidence. It will be accepted. But you will still have to argue. You will still have to show that there was an intention by the lessor to lease the property to you and all. Okay. Absolutely correct, Alok. You have given the correct answer. It will not be treated as evidence. Okay. In the sense, it will not be treated as conclusive evidence. You can file it in support overall, but that will not be conclusive clincher. Whereas if you have a registered or at least a stamped lease agreement, you can rely on it. And the court will have to give effect to what is said in that instrument and not based on oral evidence. Because the lessor will bring 3-4 oral evidences. They will come and tell all sorts of lies. Nothing. This document will be one more proof. That's all. They will also, what they say also will be considered as evidence. So that is why you have to be careful. There is no, better to get it stamped. Just a suggestion that don't, enter into any legal arrangement, even whether registrable or not, without the appropriate stamp duty. That's what I'm saying. And get it signed, and if possible, notarize it also. When you notarize it, what happens now? The signature cannot be denied. Because the notary public says, this document was signed in my presence by both these parties. I saw them signing it. Thereafter, where is the question of saying it's not my signature, it is forged like that? That cannot be said. So that way, you will protect yourself from such unnecessary arguments. You will give the lawyers less chance to beat around the bush and waste your time. Many cases, he'll get dragged on only because of this. The straight away he'll come and say, this is not my signature, it has been forged, Your Honor, like that. The first argument, that will be the first argument. It is not my signature forged. So you have to prove handwriting expert. So by the time that is 2 years over, you will get a stay and go and sit in that house. You can't evict him. So that is why I am doing good. So fantastic. Nice. Okay, we had a good legal discussion. Thank you for your nice inputs. And moving on. Dhyaneshi also says the same thing. Evidence in court, that is the correct wording that you have used. Beautifully said. Okay. Now, we move on to the topic which is relevant for us, which is interpretation and construction. Now, these two words are basically used interchangeably. Means synonymous, almost interpretation, construction. Used interchangeably. If you want to say interpretation, you can say construction. But there is a subtle difference. See, in English, there are many words having similar meaning. But each word has a shade of difference sometimes. Today I'm in a mood for it. Therefore, I'm going to give you a really good lecture on everything. See, shade. Now, if you are an artist, you will understand what I'm saying. When I say green, you cannot only think of one green. There are about 25 different green shades. 25 different shades of green. Okay. Like that in English, there are, for one thought or one concept, there are minimum 5 words, 6 words. Okay. Of course, there are other languages where there are even more words for the same thought. Okay. For example, I was reading one Sangam literature book, which was a fantastic book, which is Kalavadi Narpadu, which is about a war. 40 verses on a bitter war fought by a king and what is the damage done in that battlefield. In that one work, I could come out with 15 different terms in Tamil for enemy. The word enemy in Tamil, no, there are 15 different words are there to describe the word enemy. Okay. So enemy, just the word enemy, enemies. So we have 15 different words in Tamil. For that one word in English, we have. Like that, languages have shades and nuances of meanings. So the word interpretation and construction, though similar, though synonymous, have slight difference of meaning. Okay. The cardinal rule of construction. Cardinal means principal, important, most important. Cardinal means, see, when I'm telling something now, make a note of it so that you won't forget it again. Cardinal, because you might find this word used in the material or in textbook, but nobody will give you the meaning for it. So I'm giving you the meaning now. Cardinal means important, most important, not even important, most important. Principal, not P-R-I-N-C-A-P-L-E, P-R-I-N-C-A-P-A-L, principal, most important. Okay, the most important rule of construction of a statute is to read it literally, which means by giving to the words used by the legislature their ordinary, natural, and grammatical meaning. Okay. Now, suppose it is not possible, then using construction, you can go to the intention of the legislature. Normally, you should read only what the words say. If the words are clear and unambiguous, you have to go and do what it says. But suppose the words are susceptible to or capable of some different meaning, then if you have no way to interpret it, then you can go for going for the intention of this legislator. What was the intention? What was it that they wanted to achieve? And then you can use that to interpret, nothing else. The cardinal law of interpretation is that if the language is simple and unambiguous, it is to be read with the clear intention of the legislature. But in case it is not clear and unambiguous, then you can arrive at your own conclusion or you can arrive at your own way of looking at the statute. The slight difference between interpretation and construction is that in interpretation, we will not go for the intention. There will be two meanings, both of which are naturally possible from the words themselves. And we will prefer that which is convenient for us. That is called interpretation. I will repeat. The words of the statute are ambiguous. Ambiguous means capable of two meanings. capable of two meanings. Ambidextrous means capable of using both the hands. Like that, ambiguous means, amphibian means capable of living in land and water. Like that, ambiguous means capable of having two meanings. When there is possibility of two meanings, the same sentence can be understood in two ways, then I will prefer that which is convenient for me. This is interpretation. Suppose the sentence is so confusing that I'm unable to understand it. What are you trying to say, man? Then I can go to the intention and say, oh, this is what was the intention. See, many times these ambiguities and these false things come because of the inability of the legislator to use the language. See, which is what Denning also says. Later on, you'll see, Denning says English is not a language of precision. And he says you can interpret it. Now, so we are now moving to, I hope you got the subtle difference between construction and interpretation. Construction will go outside, find out what is the intention. And then knowing the intention, we will come back and try to give some sort of relief. Interpretation, we won't go outside. That's the word itself. The words used themselves are capable of two meanings. I will take the meaning which is convenient for me because it's equally applicable. Okay. Finally, who will decide? The Supreme Court will finally decide who is right, who is wrong. The Supreme Court will say, this is the interpretation we accept. That's all. That is why it will go right up to Supreme Court and get decided. Okay. What is the meaning? What is that particular section or what is that particular word implying? Like, okay, that's the point. Good. Hope this is interesting and hope you're going on the right track because sometimes this could become a little too heavy for students. In fact, I don't know if you know this. This topic was earlier part of the final syllabus. This topic was earlier part of the final syllabus and the institute in all its wisdom felt that students need to know this at the intermediate level itself because as part of their articleship, they will be doing this a lot, leading a lot of enactments and all that. Therefore, there's a need to know. So it's good, but slightly higher level for you. So try to be with me and to make it as simple as possible. So there are two types of interpretations. One is called legal. Other is called doctrinal. Legal, where there's an actual rule of law which binds the judge to place a certain interpretation of the statute. Okay, that is the section itself he has to read and that rule he has to apply. So legal. So that it could be authentic or usual. Authentic means the interpretation derived from the legislator himself. This is done in many cases. You know how? The rule of interpretation is derived from the legislator himself. You know how? The government is the legislator. The ministry is the legislator. They proposed the law in parliament, right? It went to parliament, got passed. Then there is an ambiguity. Immediately what they'll do, they'll come out with a circular or a clarificatory note. CBDT does this a lot. They give a clarificatory note. And that clarification will be giving an interpretation. This is derived from the legislator himself. It is binding on the legislator, not on the citizen. Okay. The legislator says, this is what I meant. Super. Why didn't you say that at that time? This is what I meant. For example, under section 195 of the Income Tax Act, tax is to be deducted at source. And the word used there is income. The word used there is income. Therefore, now the CBDT has said, in case they don't deduct tax, if you want to penalize them, then you have to decide. The assessing officer has to find out what is the embedded income. And on that only he has to see what is the tax and all that. So this is interpretation given by the thing. Unfortunately, there's an ambiguity there. Should I take the gross or should I take the net? So there is a confusion there. CBDT doesn't put any conclusion on it, even though there is an ambiguity. There are many courts which say that you should have deducted on the entire amount. Whereas there are other views also that you should deduct only on the income. So my view is that play safe and go for the gross amount. But there's interpretation is there. Now you understand what is interpretation. So you will honestly, some of you may be highly intelligent in income tax and all. So you might argue and say, Mr. Srikanth, what you don't know even this, better not, you will find out the embedded income, and only on the income we have to do. Chalo. We are supported with the CPDT circular. Very good. Obey it. Let us see where it goes. What you see. Okay. Like that. Also, some court decisions could be there, but basically, when the legislator himself comes out with a view, then it's authentic interpretation. Because he himself says, this is what I meant, yeah. Usual. It comes from some other source, such as custom or case law. Now, here the judge has told, case law. This is what I think should be, like that. Then you have doctrinal, when its purpose is to discover the real and true meaning of the statute. So grammatical interpretation, we'll be seeing that, applies only to ordinary rules of speech for finding out the meaning of the words, where you don't go for inner meanings. Logical, what does the law say? Do it. Even if it leads to a manifest absurdity, when the law is clear and unambiguous, obey it. Then you have logical, when the court goes beyond the words and tries to discover the intention or inner meaning of the legislation. So, when you are using grammatical, you are restricting yourself to the words used in the statute and their ordinary grammatical meaning. When you go for logical, then the court is trying to find out what is the intention of the statute. Okay. Sir, it cannot be repeated. What I suggest, no, whatever I have told up to now, you review, so go through the video again. Okay, if I repeat it, it will be waste of time for everybody. Maybe if you're not understood also, it's okay. It is not going to make a big problem for you. Okay, this is just some classification, that's all. Okay, so where, for example, let me put it in a different way, Mukund. Try to concentrate now and listen to me instead of again asking me to repeat it. Look at the situation. There is an ambiguity in the statute. Now you don't know what to do. You search on the taxman website and you find that there is a circular which says, this is what this word means. That is called authentic interpretation given by the legislator. Or you find there is a Supreme Court decision or High Court decision which says this is how it should be understood. Okay, this is the meaning that we are giving for this. Okay, then that becomes usual. You can take that Supreme Court decision and give it in support. Neither is there. Then you are left into doctrinal, where you have to now go to the appellate authority. You have to argue to them. So you are not having anything on which you can rely. You have to now go and create your own law. How? By going and arguing and saying, according to me, this is what it means. Then the judge will think and go through the section and he will say, hey, the section is clear and unambiguous. No need for interpretation. Or, yes, there is an ambiguity in the section. This is what it should mean. So that is logical or grammatical. Where the words are clearly ambiguous and the meaning is not clear, then in very, 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 very big cases, the court can go for intention. What is the intention? And based on that, they can give an interpretation. So I hope I've given you a quick review. Are you happy? See, usual means case law, precedential law. That's why I told you, custom or precedent. That is usual interpretation. I already mentioned 3 sources. The law itself. The other is custom or case law. Judge has given the law. Supreme Court decision, High Court. You are all quoting case laws. Now all that is usual interpretation. Okay. So authentic means the legislator himself has given. Circular is there. They themselves said this is what it means. Okay. Usual means you have to go to some other source. Like custom. All along it has been done like this only. Or case law. Case law is safe. I told you, precedential law. That's what it means. Okay. Yeah. So when you go, authentic is, you do not go out of the book. Does it say about out of the book? It clearly says authentic is derived from the legislator himself. Means the ministry itself gives the view that this section seems to have confused people. This is what it is. There you don't go out. Whereas in logical, you go out. You're exact opposite. In logical, you get into construction. You go out. Okay, in grammatical, you are only doing interpretation. Looking at the meaning, grammatical meaning. If there is an ambiguity in the grammar, in the way of usage of English, and there are 2 possibilities, you take one. So this is more like your interpretation. This is more like your grammatical is more interpretation, logical is more construction. Any problem, sir? Excuse me, somebody is talking. Chalo, good. See, if you keep worrying about this classification, you might go mad. Broadly understand it. If you don't understand it, leave it. Okay? Because of that, nothing is going to happen to you. Okay? So just to keep in mind, authentic means this, the legislator himself, there's a circular, there's something. Usual means case law. How difficult is it to understand what I'm saying? Case law. Case laws are there. Custom is there. Follow them. Okay? If nothing is possible, then you go for interpretation, grammatical. Okay? Then the words of the statute are used to see there are two meanings, then take one that is useful for you. That is almost similar to interpretation. Then go for logical. Go beyond the words and look at the intention. That is similar to construction. So I think I've clearly covered. In spite of this, if somebody is having doubt, wow, you are great. See, legislator means, see, the ministry is proposing. See, casual example is CBDT. Ultimately, it is the finance ministry is proposing the Finance Act and the amendment to the Income Tax Act. They have made some blunder. No, they themselves are coming out to the circular and saying, this is what we meant. That's all. What is so great about it? Yeah. Suddenly, Kavita is getting frightened and she is asking a question. After all this and so much complicated English words, Kavita Chandak is getting frightened and asking, is it enough if you use RTP and MTP? Yes, madam, it is enough. Don't worry. If you read RTP and MTP, it is enough. Okay. More than enough. What is meaning of custom here? Whether it is related to Sir, Boss, custom means something which has been customs. That is called, what you are talking about is called customs. Customs is a tax which is paid when goods are imported into a country or exported. That is called customs. Okay. Chor, please leave it. Chor dijiye. That is, forget it. This is different. Sir, in one particular place, they have always followed one way of doing business. That is called custom. You understand? For example, in one particular trade, compulsorily they will give 90 days credits. That is a custom. It's also known as usage. Custom or usage. It is regularly followed practice. A regularly followed practice is called custom. Customs is different. That is a tax law. Okay. It's nothing to do with indirect tax. Oh, yo, I can only find how the institute has got the guts to give this topic to intermediate students. Oh, yo. Anyway, chalo, up to here, are you clear? All are clear? Okay. Sir, Vora, don't ask question like that and interrupt me, please. Don't do this. Why are you asking that question, sir? At the end of the class, you ask it. Please. My tone is definitely changing because you are wasting my time. I'm teaching an important topic called interpretation. If you're willing to listen, listen. Otherwise, don't put query pad questions like that, please. Okay? This query pad is not meant for you and me to have a chit chat. It is meant for me to teach students and for students to ask genuine doubts on the topic. Any extraordinary doubt which are genuine, I will answer it. But not right in the middle of my lecture. Not right in the middle of my lecture. Please. Other students also, please refrain from doing that. At the end of the session, if you want, you raise. I will answer. Okay? Not right in the middle of the session, when the 11th slide is going on, you are asking, what question is this? You study however many hours you want, yeah. Abdul Aslam is studying 27 hours a day. You study 35 hours a day. What do I care? Please. Okay? I don't know how many hours you should study. Your capability is more important. Okay? Please do not waste my time on this. Okay? Now, I have a high regard for you, Ora, but don't do this again. Okay? Nobody can answer this question for you. Nobody can answer this question for you. If I tell you one thing, you will say something else. There are 24 hours in a day. You plan. You plan. That's all I can say. You plan your time. Concentrate on the exam. Don't do anything else. Study only for the exam. Dedicate your life for the next 6 months to this exam. Then timing is not important. It's not about how long you study. It is about how clearly you understand the subject in that time. I think you are not able to understand. That is the problem. Most of you are thinking more time means better chance. No. The density also should be there. If I'm studying for 2 hours, concentrated 2 hours is different from casual 2 hours. So casual 18 hours waste. I studied only 10 hours a day. 10 hours a day. But I am not recommending it to you because you may not be capable of the concentrated preparation that I can do in 10 hours. You understand? If you are not capable, don't try that. You study 18 hours. But in 10 hours, I can study what you can study in 18 hours. That is the difference. Concentration is more important. Okay, planning and concentration. And please, I have answered your question also, Vora, but no more such questions in the middle of the lecture. Please put in the query pad that you have understood what I said. As a faculty, I have the right to say this to you. Okay, because this is a very complicated topic. I'm trying my best to help you understand. Most of you, I'm being very frank here. This is a very, very English-oriented topic. Ideally, somebody should teach this to you in Hindi. Even in Hindi, he has to use words like authentic, usual, grammatical, because equivalent Hindi word may not be there. Okay, except that instead of explaining in English, he will explain in Hindi. That's all. But the fact is the same. Okay, I'm trying to do it in simple English. Try to follow what I'm saying, and you will understand what I'm saying. Chalo. Now we come to the great comment by the great, Judge Lord Denning. Lord Denning was a famous judge. He has given many decisions, including decision which says auditor should not only be a watchdog, he should also be a bloodhound. He says where the auditor's suspicions are aroused, he should not fail to investigate. Like that. This was a decision given by Lord Denning. Similarly, he has also defined the liability of a company secretary. What are the powers of a company secretary is defined. Panorama development versus Selston Fountain. He has mentioned that. So, Denning is a famous man. And in this particular quotation, which is given in your institute material, the entire quotation is given. I have made it short, but I want you to appreciate it. It's a beautiful. In fact, you see the language of this great Englishman. The English language is not an instrument of mathematical precision. It's not equation. A plus B equal to C. AB plus BC equal to 2AB plus 2BC. No, it's not an instrument of mathematical precision. Our literature would be much the poorer if it were. This is where the draftsmen of the Acts of Parliament have often been unfairly criticized. A judge believing himself to be fettered by the supposed rule that he must look to the language and nothing else, laments that the draftsmen are not provided for this or that, or have been guilty of some or other ambiguity. So when a judge is reading the statute and finds that the words are ambiguous, he should not complain, because he has now got the power to roll up his sleeves and make meaning out of the enactment. Later on, when you come to golden rule, reasonable construction, we would say, when a judge is faced with an ambiguity, then he should roll up his sleeves and give meaning and soul to the enactment, rather than reduce it to a futility. He must give meaning and soul to the enactment, rather than reduce it to a futility. Right? So, continues to say, it would certainly save the judges trouble if Acts of Parliament were drafted with divine prescience, meaning as if, God himself is drafting it. See, if God is drafting, how clear he will be, because he will never make a mistake now. But human beings will make mistakes, right? So perfect clarity may not there. So when there is no clarity, when a defect appears, a judge cannot simply fold his arms and blame the draftsman. He must set to work on the constructive task of finding the intention of Parliament. And he must do this not only from the language of the statute, but also from a consideration of the social conditions which gave rise to it. That's where the customs come into play. The social customs, conditions which gave rise to it. And of the mischief it was passed to remedy. See, what was the problem and how is it being corrected? Okay. And so has the correction happened? If so, then what should he do to make it? And then he must supplement the written word so as to give force and life to the intention. So life and soul to the legislature. He cannot reduce it to a futility. He cannot say the law is wrong. No, he should try to give some meaning to the law. That's the point. So we have seen the concept of interpretation and construction, etc. Now we move on to rules of interpretation and construction, which are primary rules and secondary rules. Primary rule means these are fundamental. They have to be followed. Now, okay. from an exam point of view, what type of question are we looking at here? Any one of these rules could be a question. For example, what is the rule of literal construction? What is the rule of reasonable construction? Or they may give you one example, very difficult to give because you are not law students. They cannot give you some legal example and say apply and all that. They can't do that. So they will simply give, for example, explain the rule of beneficial construction. Then you have to write theory now. Mostly theory questions only will come in this topic. So you will be tested on your ability to remember and reproduce, which is why I've given you these slides, which you can remember. For example, rule of literal construction. It is given here. Okay, try to remember what is given here and you will be able to do it. So, first we'll begin with the rule of literal construction, keep going, reasonable, harmonious, beneficial, exceptional, and adjustum generally. Then secondary rules like effect of usage and associated words to be understood in the common sense. Again, the word usage is another term for usage is custom. Okay, custom or usage. Okay, something which has been practiced for a long time is called usage. Custom, usage. Customary, which is being done customarily. That is the word on which it is used. Yeah. Interpretation and construction both are not the same. No, I told you no. When you are only using the words of the enactment, it is interpretation. When you are going beyond the words to the intention, it is construction. Shall I repeat? When you are using only the words of the law, and there are two meanings, and you are taking one meaning, it is called interpretation. When you are going beyond the words and looking at the background, what it was done and all, then it is called construction. So they are slightly different. Can you understand that? Everything need not be extremely opposites. There could be things which are nearby, but slightly different from each other. So both are similar, but slightly different. For example, zygotic twins, will be identical. Whereas non-zygotic twins, will be similar. They will look alike, but there will be small differences. So these are like that, non-zygotic twins, where they look alike, but they are slightly different. One small difference is there. Once you understand that, you would be able to appreciate it. Good. Now we come to possibly the most important rule of construction. That is why it's called cardinal rule of construction. It is called the rule of literal construction. Principle, important, fundamental, cardinal. Principle, important, fundamental, cardinal rule of construction. It is called literal construction. Literal means exactly as it's stated in the words. Exactly as stated in the words. So literal construction. See, I was having a driver. There used to be mosquitoes. Sometimes when I'm sitting in my office, there will be mosquito. So mosquito is going there. I will tell the driver, whenever you see a mosquito, you hit it, man. Whenever you see a mosquito, you hit it, man. Don't you hit it and kill it. So this fellow suddenly he came and hit me on my nose. Suddenly he chucked all like that. Hey, what are you doing? Sir, you only told us, Sahab. Whenever you see a mosquito, you hit it. So, whose fault is it? What was he doing? He was understanding my words literally. When you see a mosquito, hit it. Even if it is on the boss's nose, don't worry. So what did he say? If you see a mosquito, hit it. I mean, this is so sometimes the literal construction can lead to problem. That's what we are trying to say. If tomorrow, can I go and blame him? No, because what did I say? Whenever you see mosquito, hit it. He took literally. Literally means exact wordings. I saw a mosquito. I don't care where I lit it. Now, if I wanted more clarity, I should have told him. Except when it is sitting on somebody's face or somebody's body, don't hit it like that. Just what I'm trying to give you as an example is literal. Using only the words. Strictly going by the words. Strictly going by the words. And nothing else. Okay. That is called literal construction. For example, I'll give you another example of literal construction. And very beautifully done also. In the Merchant of Venice, Shylock wants a pound of flesh. So he makes Antony sign the Merchant of Venice, Antonio. He makes him sign a deed. It says, In case Bassanio does not pay 3,000 ducats, then you can take 1 pound of my flesh. You can take 1 pound of my flesh from near the heart. That's all. Agreement is very clear. If the 3,000 ducats not paid, ducat is the currency then prevailing in Venice. If 3,000 ducats not paid, you are entitled to take 1 pound of flesh from near my heart. Agreed. So he goes to court. Shylock goes to the court of Venice before the Doge and he says, I want my pound of flesh. So Antonio is ready now, bearing his breast. And that's a famous picture also. Whenever you see Merchant of Venice pictures, you'll see the bearded Shylock with the scales and a knife. And Antonio opening his breast and Bassanio there. And Portia comes in, that is wife who is going to marry Bassanio. And she says, wait, you are entitled to 1 pound of flesh. You are entitled to 1 pound of flesh. Immediately Shylock says, thank you, I am happy. Then she says, you are entitled to 1 pound of flesh, but not a drop of blood you will spill. That is called litter. What did you say? What are the words you used? I am entitled to 1 pound of flesh. Take it. But if you spill even 1 drop of Christian blood, you will be arrested immediately. Check it. Now, see the literal meaning. He had been smart what he'd have told, including blood, but he forgot. He wanted so mad about that pound of flesh, he forgot to think that if I'm cutting a pound of flesh, blood will also flow. So she said, you cannot let blood flow. Take the flesh without the blood. So this is a classic example of literal construction where that wording in the deed or document was interpreted to mean this. Correct. Portia was actually there, no doubt, but she was not coming in as a lady. She came dressed as a lawyer. It's a beautiful play by Shakespeare. I'm just giving it as an example of literal construction. There are so many other examples where if you give literal meaning, then the intention will not be served. See, what was Shylock's intention? To kill Antonio. Obviously, if he cuts too near the heart, he can kill him. Now, that was his intention. But because of the literal construction, his intention was defeated. Just an example. I don't know how many of you would have appreciated, but if you enjoyed it, I'm very happy because this is exactly what literal is meaning. What are the words given in the deed or document? What are the words used in the enactment? They are clear. No problem. Give them the meaning. Where the language is plain and admits or is capable of only one meaning, there is no room for interpretation. And only that meaning is to be enforced, even though it is absurd or mischievous. The maxim, absoluta sententia expositio non indigit. It's a Latin term. If you can remember it, remember it. Absoluta sententia expositio non indigit. That is, where the words are, where the plain words are used, they are capable of only one interpretation. Plain words do not need an exposition or explanation. Absoluta sententia. Plain words do not need an exposition or interpretation. That is what it means. So, you might ask me, sir, should I remember Latin terms? No need. No need. If you feel that it is difficult for you to remember, sir, already I'm struggling to remember English, sir. How can I remember Latin? I totally agree with you. Don't bother. Remember, where the words of the statute are plain and unambiguous, then there is no need for interpretation. Implement it. Okay, is the point. Absoluta sententia expositio non indigit. Can you understand how Latin became the legal language? How Latin became the legal language? Because before the British became the world rulers, the imperial colonists, the imperial rulers of the world were the Romans. So that's when Christianity, when it spread, it basically a small Jewish community in Judea. It spread through Greece, all over the world. And it spread from Rome, which is why the biggest headquarters of Christianity is in Rome. So Rome spread everywhere. Roman law, Roman conquest happened everywhere, right up to Britain, right? Almost entire Europe, almost Africa. Okay, everywhere, Greece, everywhere Rome was ruling. And wherever they went, Latin became the language. Just like, when India, we are having Hindi as the official language. In Roman occupied territories, Latin was the official language. So other language, like English for that matter, which was then what of French, was second level language, and Latin was the language. So in fact, in court and in other governmental communications, it used to be written only in Latin. And people used to learn Latin, including our great Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, when he went to Britain, learned Latin, because that was the language in which arguments were made in court. Can you imagine? Right up to 1890s, arguments in court were in Latin, because that was the court language. Then, of course, better counsels prevailed and English became the language. Thanks to the British conquering the whole world, English became a sort of a supreme language. And now, of course, the Americans are ruling the world. I don't know what language will be the language of choice going forward. Chalo. Now, in dealing with a matter regarding to the general public, statutes are presumed to use words in their popular sense. For example, there was a confusion between customs paid to the customs authorities and custom, as in a regularly used practice. So whenever there's a confusion, the word custom does not mean custom duty. It means regularly used practice. Because popularly it is known as custom. What is your custom? Marriage custom, like that. What custom do you follow? Like that. Okay. But to deal with particular business or transaction, words are presumed to be used with a particular meaning which they are used and understood in the particular business. Suppose you are appearing before a court on a customs issue, where you are trying to argue on customs law. There, the meaning of the word custom will not be regularly used to practice. It will mean a duty paid on import or export of goods. Meaning will change depending on the usage. Okay. But generally, you should look at their dictionary meaning or popular meaning and not the technical meaning. Okay. You have to give them the literal meaning or their ordinary or literal meaning. But now this is where you go further. You notice the change? From rule of literal construction, we have moved to rule of reasonable construction, right? I'm not aware. Means riti. I don't know. Riti, maybe I don't know. I'll have to check out. I'm not aware of the word. In Hindi, I'm not aware of the word. Riti word in meaning in English, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Generally, the words or phrases of a statute are to be given their ordinary or literal meaning, right? But when the grammatical or literal construction leads to a manifest absurdity, then the courts shall interpret the statute so as to resolve the inconsistency and make the enactment a consistent whole. See, before this 2013 law, the Companies Act 1956 was there. In that old law, you will be studying in final, you'll be studying section 186, means intercorporate loans and investments. There now the law has been corrected, but in the old law, okay, in the old 372A, it used to be very, very funny. Penalty clause. Normally we use the penal clause. Now what do we say? The company and every officer in default shall be punishable with fine. Not a problem. Because company can also pay fine, officer can also pay fine. But in 372A, the section beautifully says, the company and every officer shall be punishable with fine of so-and-so and to imprisonment of so-and-so. Usually what they'll do, they'll separate the company, only fine. Then they'll separate the officer, fine and imprisonment or fine or imprisonment. That beautiful section, they said, company and every officer in default shall be punishable with the fine of 5 lakhs or whatever. And with imprisonment for 6 months. Now, what is the problem here? Niyam, correct. Boss, let's not go too deep into it. Say niyam, yeah, if you are following it consistently, over a long period, it is custom. Okay. So, you should be following it consistently over a long period. Then it's a custom. That is, I think that's easier to understand. Don't confuse. English, understand it in English. See, niyam is again what is fixed by some rule of conduct. It may not be followed. Niyam. niyam is fixed by some rule of conduct, rules. These rules may not be followed. There are so many niyams that you are not following. Whereas custom is different. It is followed consistently. It is not laid down anywhere. It is not written anywhere, nowhere, but it is followed. Then it is called. Anyway, don't get too much worried about all this. If you are able to understand it broadly, it is good. Okay. You will easily know a custom when you come across it. Okay, don't worry about it. It will be told to you by the person who is telling it. This is something that we have been practicing for a long time. That in our community, in our village, in our district, this is what we are doing for a long time. The minute you hear that word, it means custom. Then automatically you check out if it has been followed since time immemorial. If so, then we can. For example, leather industry, this need not necessarily be religious or community based. It could be industry or trade based also. For example, in leather industry, there are certain customs and usages. There are certain fees that are paid matter of custom, or certain things that are done matter of custom. Zikat and all in Islam is there. Now, there is no custom where you have to pay certain amount as so, for example, when a person is when he is looking at the skin, hide or skins, he is entitled to one share of it. So that is not written anywhere in contract, but it is part of the custom. So like that we can say it's part of the custom. Like that, it depends. Okay, it's very complicated. How a company can be imprisoned? That is a good question you are asking. You tell me how it can be imprisoned. Now, how to give meaning to the statute? So it leads to a manifest absurdity. Though the words are clear, and the words are there. The company and every officer in default shall be subject to a fine of rupees so and so and imprisonment for 6 months. Words are clear. How to put a company in prison, artificial person, how to put in prison, we don't know. So what you should do, court should do what? See, if you're a smart lawyer, what you will do, you will say that this section cannot be implemented. Since the section cannot be implemented, the entire section should be thrown out. Since the penalty cannot be implemented on a company, this penalty itself is invalid. It should be thrown out. My director is also not liable for imprisonment like that. You will argue, but the court will again have to be careful. They should not simply accept that it is absurd and then say, yeah, the law is wrong. The court shall interpret the statute so as to resolve the inconsistency, make the enactment a consistent whole. So there they have something called blue pencil rule. I'm sure you studied it in Contract Act. See, when a contract has legal part, see, it's an illegal contract. A contract to do something illegal is void. You know that. A contract to do something illegal is void. But in that legal contract, there should be a illegal contract. There could be a legal part, which is not prohibited by law, right? Now, can that part be enforced is the question. Now, the answer is yes, provided the legal part can be separated from the illegal part clearly by a blue pencil. Suppose I draw a line. Can I clearly separate it? This fellow has nothing to do with the illegal part. He never knew about illegal part. It's part of the contract. He did something which was legal. He should be paid. Whereas if it is not possible to separate this legal from that illegal, then even the legal will be tainted by the illegal. It will become illegal. But if I can separate it with the blue pencil, same rule will not apply here. Can I separate the absurd part from the not absurd part? I can say, look here, imprisoning a company is absurd, segregated. That is not going to happen. We will not allow it. Whereas imprisoning a director is possible, imprison him. The intention of the legislature was that they should be imprisoned. Now they are going into construction. Are you able to understand? Now they are going beyond the words of the statute. Interpretation has failed. The section has become manifest absurdity. Now interpretation stops. Kavita Chandak, listen, interpretation stops. Construction begins. Where they are going beyond the words of the statute to the intention of the legislature, which is there is a punishment by way of imprisonment, like that. So this, if you are clear, now there is no doubt. If you are clear, there will be no ambiguity. Okay. Wonderful. So this blue pencil rule is something, is a classic example where you can separate. Sorry. This rule broadly says that if two meanings of the context and the right should be chosen reasonably. Exactly. Vora, come on, back into the fray with the proper comment. Yes, welcome Vora back. So, sir, this rule broadly says that if two meanings of the context can be understood, the right should be chosen reasonably or sensibly. Absolutely correct. That is what is the meaning of rule of reasonable construction. Beautifully stated. Well, correctly stated. This principle is based on the rule that the words of a statute must be construed reasonably so as to give effect to the enactment rather than reduce it to a futility. That's what I told her. When I come to reasonable construction, again I will talk about this. You should give effect to the enactment rather than reduce it to a futility. So again we have read interpretatio fiendae utrest magis valeat quam periat. Sometimes, they will ignore this part and read utrest magis valeat quam periat. Law should be given meaning and soul rather than reduced to a futility. That's what it means actually. It should give effect to the enactment rather than reduce it to a futility. That's what it means. Okay. Therefore, this rule is called rule of reasonable construction. So while interpreting a law, two meanings are possible. One making the statute absolutely vague and absurd and meaningless, and other leading to certainty and a meaningful interpretation. In such case, the latter interpretation should be followed. Okay. There are many, thank you, Ms. Prachi, for confirming that you have understood. So there are many situations like, you will come across, I cannot give 100 examples because I know only 3 or 4, 5 examples, but you will come across many situations. Point is, I am giving you tools. Each rule of interpretation is a tool. Keep the tool ready. When you see a situation, think, which tool should I apply? Should I apply literal construction? Yeah, the words are clear. Why should I waste? Whereas there is an absurdity here, then reasonable construction. Okay, like that. Where there are two meanings, both are equally acceptable. I am entitled to take the meaning which is convenient for me. Then let court finally decide which is correct, like that. Aslam asks a very good question. Construed or constructed. See, the word that we are using here, construction, the noun construction, has its root in the verb to construe. To construe. Okay, to construe. Got it? The infinitive is to construe, not to construct. To construct means to make, to build, to create, to construct. The result is construction, a building. Whereas that is different. Here, to construe means to give meaning to an enactment. To construe. So, the past participle would be construed and not constructed. The building was constructed. The law has been construed. I will repeat. The building was constructed. The law has been construed by the Supreme Court in this manner. Not constructed by the Supreme Court. A law or any statute or deed or document is construed. Use the correct spelling. C-O-N-S-T-R-U-E-D. Construed. Okay. Now we move on to another rule of construction, which is rule of harmonious construction. As usual, around 7:30, I'll give you a small break and then we'll go on. Now, harmonious construction arises when there is conflict. Harmony, opposite of harmony is conflict, fighting. When there is disharmony, when there is conflict, then you have to give harmonious construction. Harmony is very, very important. Means when two people are singing, both should sing in the same tune. If one person is moving away and the other person is catching up fast, no, it will be very bad. So harmony is needed. That's why harmony. So harmony needs where there is a conflict. How is it possible? In the law, one section says one thing. Another section which is related to this says something opposite. Possible. If so, which should be considered or which should be given meaning? For that, there is one simple rule which you can follow easily, which is the fundamental basis of the rule of harmonious construction. Where the statute does not contain any indication, then you can use this rule very easily and say, this is how we will construe it like that. Okay. It is known as the rule of harmonious construction. I will give that rule, very, very easy rule. You can apply it everywhere. An effort should be made to interpret a statute in such a way as harmonizes with the object of the statute and with the other section also. Okay. When there is a conflict between two sections or two subsections, then you have to, or when there is a conflict between two laws, you have to harmonize it. You cannot say this law is also correct, this law. Both cannot operate. One has to succeed to the other. They say, I am here, you can't. So here we go with the basic rule. This is the basic rule of harmonious construction, where the act is not giving any clue, where there is no precedence defined in the law, where the law does not tell you clearly which section is superior to which section, or which subsection is superior to which section. Then, where it is not possible to give effect to both the provisions harmoniously, collision may be avoided by holding that one section which is in conflict with another merely provides for an exception or a specific rule different from the general rule contained in the other. A specific rule will override a general rule. Simple. Whenever you see mosquito, hit it. General rule. If it is sitting on my nose, don't hit it. Specific rule. Sir, you are only telling mosquito hit. How you can say don't hit this mosquito? But specifically, I have told you on my nose, don't hit. So when there is a specific situation for which a different rule has been prescribed, that will override the general rule. A specific rule will override a general rule. This is very important. And it is, again, in the form of a Latin maxim. So, generalia specialibus non-derogant. A general rule cannot derogate or take away from a special rule, a specific rule. Generalia specialibus non-derogant. A general rule cannot take away. Derogate means, abrogate means take away. Cannot take away from a specific rule. Specific rule will always override a general rule. So in any given situation, you have to see which is the specific rule and you have to see which is the general rule and say that hey, this is specific, that is general. So this fellow will preside over that fellow and close that matter and move on. This is how you have to do it. Okay? But there should be a real and not merely apparent conflict. There should be clear case where there seems to be some sort of a confusion. Some of you have even come out with such views and said, sir, here it says like that, there it says like that, what to do like that. So there I also mentioned, if you remember that, where they say you cannot convert one type of voting right into another voting right like that. Whereas elsewhere they say, what is the method for changing the rights applicable to staff? So you cannot you cannot take normal shares and convert them into differential voting right shares. Like that we have told. How is that possible like that? So that's a specific provision. Whereas there's a general provision on differential voting shares. There's a specific provision which says you cannot do this. The specific provision will override the general provision. In other words, exception will override the general here. That is why the purpose of an exception is to override the general and say the general will be applicable in all cases. In this case, only this fellow will apply. He will not come. That's the point. Okay, exceptions are created. If the law creates the exceptions, that is easy. But where the law does not create the exception, then only you have to apply the rule of specialibus, generalia specialibus, non-derogant, and apply it and do it. Okay. So after having construed their context, the words are capable of only a single meaning. The rule of harmonization disappears and is replaced by the rule of literal construction. Okay, is the point. CBDT has provided section 194Q of TDS deduction will override section. Exactly. Beautifully said. That is a clear-cut example where the statute itself says, if you are deducting tax under 194Q, then you need not collect TCS under 205(1)(c). Beautiful. Excellent example of the beautiful example you have given. But there again, there's a confusion, The CBDT has given a circular there for your information. And that confusion circular is there. But in fact, one merchant community, they came to me and they wanted my view. I gave my view. I said, look here, which will come first, 194Q or 205.1c? Which will come first? Because you are purchasing, right? He is selling. Now he is sending the bill. Now you have to deduct tax when? At the time of crediting or payment, whichever is earlier. You will be crediting him now. At that time you have to deduct, right? So you would have deducted. When he will collect TCS, only at the time of collection he will take it. So you need not pay because you already deducted. Like that I gave my view. Whereas CBDT, very vaguely they ran around the mulberry bush. They did not tell clearly what is the issue. They said you have to do. I said 194Q is superior. You have to deduct. Okay, which is what my friend Abdul also says. 195Q will override section 205.1c. Thank you, sir, for that beautiful point. This is also my view that 194Q you have to between all my clients. I tell them, boss, if you don't deduct, don't come to me later and cry because it is overriding. If you pay to that guy, that's not right. He can't collect it from you because you already paid. You already deducted under 194Q. Beautiful. I think now we have come into the groove of interpretation. Now you know how you can use it. So this is going beyond company law, Baba. It is everywhere. In fact, taxation is a law. You can use it there. Indirect tax, use it there. These are like tools I'm giving you. You can use them everywhere. So what is Vedanta Torah saying? Means if there is a rule which has a conflict between two provisions, what to be chosen between the two of the selected provision has another specific rule for it will be applied and the rule with two provisions will be released. No. You are confusing. There are two sections. Both are talking on the same subject. One is telling one thing, another is telling completely different, which will be important. So this two provision and all, don't confuse. That is over. We have finished that. Okay, that is over. Interpretation all over. If it is capable of two, then you decide what you are going to do. Gone. Here it's not like that. There are two provisions, alag provisions. Both are on the same subject. There is some sort of a confusion between the two. This fellow says do, that fellow says don't do. Or this fellow says do for 7 lakhs, that fellow says do for 10 lakhs. Which one to follow? Then you have to see which is specific, which is general. So specific provision will apply to that situation. This fellow will be superior in that situation. That fellow will not apply. So specific is superior to general. That's what it means. So your entire paragraph, if I again try to read, I will go mad. I'm not going to do that. Understand what I have told, that is enough. Charges means in Companies Act, charge includes mortgage. But according to Property Act, yeah, exactly. Companies Act is a specific provision which overrides the Transfer of Property Act. Beautifully said. Okay. So for purpose of registration and for the purpose of stamping, Transfer of Property Act will apply. But for the purpose of registration of charge includes mortgage. Companies Act, charge includes mortgage. So the Companies Act has clearly created a exemption and specific rule which will override the general rule. Correct. Meanings of words also. But there, the statute itself clearly gives you. There you don't have to use rule of harmonious construction. The statute itself will say, if you look at the statute, it will say, for explanation will be there. Later on we'll be seeing internal aids. Now there you will see it. That in the section itself, there will be an explanation. In that explanation, they will say, for the purpose of this section, the word salary shall mean to include or shall be deemed to include, like that. These are called definitions. So that you don't have to confuse with rule of art. There is no need to construe there. It's available in the Act. Its Act is clear. It says for this section, use only this. Ms. Sudipta Das, I have already uploaded audit and auditors. I can't upload it again. It is there. Up to audit and auditors, I have already uploaded it. So I cannot upload it again. It has been uploaded. Kindly check with the institute and find out if it is not there. Okay? It has already been uploaded. My last topic was audit and auditors. It has been uploaded. The PDF file has been uploaded already. Okay? Kindly check. It is there. So I cannot upload it again. Why should I upload something which I have already uploaded? Or else you send a mail to the institute and they will check up and tell me if it is not there. If they confirm that it is not there, I will definitely upload it again. Please kindly understand my difficulty. And I think this should be the last time you will post this query again. So now the time is exactly 7:30. It's a nice point of time to stop because harmonious construction is not over. We still have to do some work on this. But in the meantime, let's have a small break for about 10 minutes. Right? Welcome back from your well-deserved tea break, or whatever you did during the break. Before we continue, I am able to see Ms. Ilakya, Sudipta, all saying that audit and auditor's notes is not there. No problem. But give me time. I'm leaving for Ahmedabad tomorrow. I'll be back only on 6th night. 7th, I'll be busy. Maybe 7th in the evening, I will do it. Give me some time. Because today I'm very tired. After I go home, I have to pack up, and early I'm taking a morning flight to Ahmedabad. So seriously not having time to do this. But after that, because I have to change the name, I have to do all sorts of things and then upload it. It will take me hardly 5-10 minutes, but I will do it. No. I will not only do it for auditors, I will do it for your charges and this topic also. Okay? So no problem. So no problem. Sudipta, if you think it is not there, I will give it. It is my duty to share it with you. Okay? If it is not there, I will definitely share it with you. Not only that, I will share it with, I will share this charges and everything will be shared with you. Okay. So nice of you to say it's okay. I'll prepare them by watching your. No. I will share the latest audit and auditors with all of you. Sorry for that. I was honestly under the impression last session after I completed it, I shared the accounts and auditors and all. I think I don't know how. I will share it. No problem. If it's not there, I will share it. No issues. So that is clarified. Going on. The rule of harmonious construction is applicable only when there is a real and not merely apparent conflict. You've seen that. When after having construed their context, the words are capable of only a single meaning, the rule of harmonious construction disappears and is replaced by the rule of literal construction. That is, this fellow is talking clearly on one subject. Similarly, that fellow is talking on the same subject clearly, but no conflict. Then simply saying conflict, it's not going to help you. Okay? There should be a real overlap between the two. Both should speak on the same subject, and there should be a confusion as to what happens. So under the old law, there were some examples, but new law, there is not much harmonious issues. Where the language used in a statute is capable of more than harm. We are moving from harmonious to another very dangerous area. This is called the rule of beneficial construction, or Hayden's rule. Where the language used in a statute is capable of more than one interpretation, the most firmly established rule for construction is the principle laid down in Hayden's case. The rule is known as purposive construction or mischief rule. The rule then directs the courts must adopt that construction which shall suppress the mischief and advance the remedy. It's a very famous, very old case, 1584. Barons of the realm, they sit and they hear a case and they find that the king has made a law. The law was meant to correct something, but instead the law has an ambiguity. Because of that, the mischief is still continuing. Mischief means the problem, the mistake is still continuing. Mischief. See, sometimes in legal language, the word mischief will be used very, very funnily. If you are, as you become a more advanced student of the subjects and you become a qualified chartered accountant and you attend public seminars, especially in southern part of the country, many lawyers and senior chartered accountants will use the word mischief very, very carefully, very, very differently. For example, they will say, this situation is not covered by the mischief of, like that they will say. This situation is not covered by the mischief of section 69B. Like that they will say. There they mean that section 69B will not have any impact on the situation. Like that they mean. It is not covered by the mischief of, as if, that section is creating some mischief, some problem it is doing. But and that this situation is not covered by the mischief of section 69B, like that. Basically, mischief means anything that is dangerous or anything that is wrongly happening is called mischief. Okay. So there is already a problem. a law was enacted to correct the problem. That law also has the problem. Then what to do? Then the rule then directs the courts must adopt that construction which shall suppress the mischief or the bad element and advance the remedy or the solution. So, this was laid down by the barons of the realm in this famous case called Hayden's case. That is why this particular rule is also known as Hayden's rule. So, rule of beneficial construction or Hayden's rule, also known as purposive construction or mischief rule. Okay. You know, beneficial construction is a totally different thing. But the institute material, again and again, they use only beneficial construction for Hayden's rule. I don't want to take a risk. So I have given beneficial construction here. I don't know what it says in your institute material. Or unless beneficial construction is shown separately there. Okay. I remember that because I don't know. I am not aware of it. This is the rule in Hayden's case. It's called the mischief rule. It's called the rule of this is called Hayden's rule. That's all. Okay. Or the mischief rule. Okay. It's not the rule of beneficial. Rule of beneficial construction is where when there is an ambiguity in the law, one of which is liberal, one of which is giving some benefit to the subject, and another is taking away, you can give a beneficial construction. That is, you can give benefit to the subject. You can give a benefit to the citizen. That is not beneficial construction. Whereas mischief rule is something different. Hayden's case is something different. Okay. So the Hayden's rule is where there was an earlier law, there was a problem, remedy has been provided in the new law, that is also having a problem. Now how to promote it? So first you have to see four matters. What was the law before the making of the act? What was the mischief or defect for which the law did not provide? What is the remedy that the act has provided? And what is the reason for the remedy? How to give the benefit? What is the fourth question? Fourth question when you answer, it will be how to give the relief which has to be given. How to provide the remedy. That is why this rule may sometimes be referred to as beneficial construction. Because it tries to give the benefit to the citizens and correct the remedy, correct the mistake and remedy the mistake and give the benefit. Therefore, it could be called beneficial construction. Okay. But I have verified it in everywhere. Beneficial construction is a separate concept where there are two interpretations. One is harsh and the other is liberal. Giving the liberal view and benefit to the citizen is the beneficial construction. The courts have the power to do that, provided it is combining with the intention of the legislature. Okay. See, going back to literal construction, recently I read one nice case law. Okay. Let me see if I can locate it here. Very beautiful article written by a very senior chartered accountant, Mr. S. Krishnan, very great chartered accountant, Chennai mein. He is the authority on income tax. He's written a book on capital gains. So written a book on capital gains, treatise on capital gains. He has written an article. He sent it to me. It was very interesting. See, and also stupid. How it was surprising that auditors and lawyers can argue like this. See, section 54 of the Income Tax Act is very clear. You sell a property. I'm sure all of you are familiar with 54. I'm not going to insult you by assuming that you do not know section 54 of the Income Tax Act 1961. 54 is a simple law. What does it say? Capital gain. You are selling a residential house. You sale proceeds are there. You find out the cost of acquisition, blah, blah, indexation, blah, blah. You find out the capital gain. If that capital gain is invested in another residential house, one more, then you will get 54 relief. That amount of capital gain so invested will be deducted, allowed as a deduction, exemption, whatever. Simple. But they put one condition. They say, if you want to claim this benefit, the investment in that new residential house should be made before the date for filing the return. Before the due date of filing or before the date of filing the return. If you are unable to invest it before the date of filing the return, then that amount not invested in that property should be kept in a separate account called capital gain saving scheme. Right? Capital gain saving scheme. Before the date for filing the return. Before the due date for filing the return. One fellow, what he does, he deposits the money after the due date for filing the return. Then he uses the money for constructing within 3 years. So after that, you have to ensure that you use the money. That money should be used for constructing a house property within 3 years or purchasing it within 2 years. No problem. This is clear. This fellow, he has put the money in the capital gain scheme after the due date for filing the return. And this beauty is he has filed his return well in time. He has filed his return well before the due date, and before that, neither before the date of filing nor before the actual due date, he has deposited in the capital gain scheme. Or subsequently he has deposited. Then he has used it. Now that as is telling, the intention of the legislature is to give me a benefit. The intention of the legislature is that I should get the relief of section 54. I have sincerely deposited in capital gain scheme and I have used it for construction of a house. Please give me 54 relief. Matter goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is giving a delay. Supreme Court, I think Supreme Court, or I don't know, Karnataka, I checked that. I was trying to check up somewhere. They are hitting him and saying, what are you saying? The law is clear and unambiguous, boss. 54, what doubt is there? Law is very clearly telling whatever amount is not invested should be invested on or before due date for filing the return. He's relying on, he's relying on some stupid Supreme Court decision. What in that decision they have said, one assessee filed the return late, but within the belated period, he filed it. And before filing the return, he deposited. There as an exception, they interpreted and said, see, he didn't file it on the due date, but he filed it subsequently. But before filing the return, he deposited. That's a different case altogether. Whereas here, even before filing his due date return or before the due date, he is deposited. So this fellow's case has nothing to do with that situation, even assuming you are that. But this fellow is not arguing that. He's saying the intention of the legislature is to give me relief under 50, is to give, when I'm constructing another residential house, give me relief. Like that. The law was, the High Court was very clear. It said, look here, I am not here to give you relief. I am not here to, where the law is clear and unambiguous, it has to be interpreted strictly. That is why the rule of literal construction is also known as the rule of strict interpretation. Rule of strict interpretation, right? So, long-term capital gain, what is that? LGTC from sale of asset other than house property, isn't it? Your sentence itself needs interpretation, I say. Anyway, I am giving the example of 54. I hope you followed my example first. Instead of wasting your time putting comments and all, listen to what I am saying, Aslam. Did you understand what I am saying? That is, that fellow was claiming literal construction of 54. That fellow was claiming reasonable construction of 54. He was saying, give me a reasonable construction. Look at the construction. Look at the intention of the legislature. The court said, we will not look at the intention of the legislature. Why? Because the law is clear and unambiguous. Where the law is clear and unambiguous, there is no need for us to look at the intention of the legislature and things like that. Right? Good. Now, we go on. Beneficial construction we have seen. Now, exceptional construction. The rule of exceptional construction stands for the elimination of statutes and words in a statute which defeat the real objective of the statute or make no sense. Okay. Now we go on to certain aspects of this where the words used in the statute have some special meanings. Okay. Be a little careful here. Normally, or and. Okay. And is conjunctive. Conjunction. Actually, both or and are grammatically called conjunctions because they combine words. A or B or C or A and B and C. So we are combining words. But generally in our understanding, or means separate and means together. You know this already. We have seen definition of small company where you understood that and is very powerful. Both the conditions are to be satisfied. And whereas if it's or, even if one condition is satisfied is enough. Which means where they want to give some relief, etc. No, they might use the word and, because both have to be satisfied, only then relief. Whereas if they want to catch you, they'll say or. Even if one is satisfied, you are in. Okay. So the word or is normally distinctive and is normally conjunctive. However, there are times when they are read as vice versa, where the intention of the legislature is disclosed on the context. Okay. This would be so where the literal reading of the word produces an unintelligible or absurd results. In such a case, and may be read for or often. That is, if I use and, it will have no meaning. Only then I have to use or. Otherwise, there is no where the assessee is a male and a female. Like that, if they say, come on, I cannot use the word and there. The assessee cannot be male and female. Yeah. Either male or female. Cannot be male and female. So where the assessee is a male and a female, like that. Well, suppose they are using. There's no section which uses like that. So then you have to interpret and say, hey, both cannot be at the same time. They are mutually exclusive. Therefore, or has to be used. Where two mutually exclusive things are combined together with and, that will be what nonsense. How can they be both? Like so, put or. Like that. Or where they are clearly exclusive, how you can put and like that. Put or there. Okay. Or where they are clearly combinable, how you can put or, you put and. Okay. That is the interpretation. See, even though the result of so modifying the words is less favorable to subject, provided that the intention of the legislature is quite clear. The intention of the legislature should be constantly seen. This is where, we are moving away from interpretation to construction. Slowly we are moving away from interpretation. We are moving towards construction. We are looking at intention of the legislature. What was it that they are trying to do? And we are trying to give effect to the intention of the legislature rather than the another beautiful thing. The problem is, I am teaching this to you now, but you will find it of value only when you come to final. I'm sure the faculty who's teaching you inspection and investigation will stress these words may and shall. While teaching you the powers of the central government regarding investigation, regarding ordering of investigation, the faculty would stress the importance of the words may, must and shall. May and shall. May and must have almost the same meaning. Must is rarely used in intelligent users of English will not use must where they can use shall. Shall is a better word, elegant word. Must, I don't think they will use. But if some old laws are having must, because if I am using legal language, I will use shall. I will never use must. Sir, if I am asking somebody conversationally, I will say you must go tomorrow. But if I am giving it in writing, I will say you shall go tomorrow. Because there is no question of you disobeying me. You shall go. But both must and shall will have almost similar meanings. Mandatory. Once the word shall is used, you have no option. Whereas may indicates an option. May indicates an option. Hence, a provision containing may is called directory. Directory means don't confuse the telephone directory. Yeah, telephone directory is different. That is where list of people's name and their telephone number is called directory. Please, this is direction, giving direction, where suggestion, directory. Where the word may is used in a provision, that provision is called directory. It is not compulsory. That is why you have directive principles of state policy. Okay, where the constitution maker, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, felt that Gandhian principles are to be followed and certain other things are to be done. But state governments cannot be forced to make laws there. The constitution cannot force it, but they will be encouraged to do it. So they said these are directive principles. Kindly follow them. If you think you can legislate laws to bring these things, please do it and bring about such things in your state or in the central. Shall indicates that there is no option. Hence, provisions containing shall are termed mandatory. So, what you should know is mandatory versus directory. Mandatory means no option. Directory means there is an option. May. When I say you may go now, I'm also implying that you can stay. I'm using the word may. If they say you shall go now, you have to go. There's no option available to you. Okay. So next time on, from now on, when you're reading sections, be careful. What word are they using? May or shall? So the minute they use the word shall, it is mandatory. No option. When a provision is mandatory, it must be strictly observed. When it is directory, it would be sufficient that it is substantially complied with. Even if it is not complied with, it's okay. For example, many times, powers of central government would be using the word may. The central government may. Okay. For example, when the levying of penalty, they will use the word may, because the assessing officer has the power to drop the penalty. May. If he feels it's a fit case, he can drop. Okay. May and shall. May is used. May means he can levy, he need not levy. He can choose to. So there is some kind of power to drop. Okay. But in some cases, may can have the meaning of shall and vice versa. Right? So this is may and shall. In fact, when you come to final, you will come across investigation provisions where beautifully you will find the words used are clearly may and shall. Clearly, when the central government may order an investigation, when the central government shall do so. For example, when tribunal or any court passes an order, there is no option. Central government shall order an investigation. But when a report is received and it reads it and it is satisfied that there is no issue, it may. It may or it may not. Okay. So sometimes its option is there, sometimes no option. There you will find it correctly used. In our name clause, when there is something called rectification of name, there they use the word shall and say the company shall change its name by passing an ordinary resolution. Stupidly, knowingly, it has been there right from the 56 Act. You are telling shall. Then why resolution? Because resolution is an option. The members may not vote in favor. In which case, what happens? So that's what they give a solution. They say where the members do not do it, then central government can itself do it. Then why waste time? Yeah, you do it directly and go. Why give him an option to change? All to say, the central government may give an option to the company to change. If the company does not change, central government itself will change. Something like that. Instead of giving a shall, the central company shall change its name by passing an order resolution. I think that's a combination of a mandatory provision with a voluntary provision. It's not I think there's a problem there. In the new law, what they have done, they have foreseen this. And they said, in case the members do not pass the change of name resolution, then the company, the registrar himself can change it and record it. I am not aware, sir. Must I will never use, sir. If I am drafting a law, if I am drafting a legal document, I will never use the word must, sir. Have I made myself clear, Mr. Pranay? I prefer either the word may or the shall. I will not use the word must. There is no big difference between must and shall for me to waste my time giving you examples. Okay. In the law, please do not use the word must when you are drafting or anything. In the law, if you see the word must, read it as if it has the same meaning as shall. That's all. Okay. Must and shall have the same meaning. Take it as that. But generally, elegant draftsmen will not use the word must. They will use only the word shall. Okay. That is my view on this. So let us not waste our time on distinction between must and shall and all. Okay. Name change penalty is also removed, correct. But then instead you amend the law and remove the ordinary resolution and directly say that, the central government will direct. And in case the company doesn't comply, the central government will change. That's all, matter over. That's what I'm saying. It can be simpler and elegant, why go for all this? Now we move on to another possibly very important rule of interpretation. Say this is a very important rule of interpretation. Right? Means the rule of ejus dem generi. Pronouncing it in the way I am pronouncing it. If you still feel like I don't want to pronounce it that way, ejus dem generis, no problem. Okay, ejus dem generi. Ejus dem generi means of the same kind or species. Genus means of the same kind. Genus. When classifying organisms, they have species. In that species, they have genus. Okay, so in that genus, you say same kind. Okay, genus. Okay, we come under the genus of primates. Okay, apes and gorillas. But our species is Homo sapiens. Okay, we are Homo sapiens. Then we go a little bit above, we'll have chimpanzee, bonobo. Then a little bit this side, gorillas are there. That little bit that side, the apes are there. Monkeys are there, still further. And then all combined together like that. Okay. Then on the other side, from that orangutan or from that bonobo monkey, the Neanderthal, then that group goes. Then we come, Homo erectus. Then finally we have Homo sapiens. That's how we came. Okay. So our species is called Homo sapiens. Okay. Why this biology lesson? You will find it relevant to understand Aegistem generis. That is why. The rule of Aegistem generis means that where specific words are used, and after those specific words, some general words are used, the general words would take their color from the specific words used earlier. First, there are specific 1, 2, 3 listed items. Then finally, any other similar item or any other matter of a similar nature. That means that last is a general. Now, the rule of Aegistem generis is the particular words used to exhaust the whole genus. Then the general words are to be construed as covering a larger genus. But if the particular words are specific and relate to one particular category, then these general words would take their color from the specific words used earlier. Okay. So, the general principle of Aegistem generis applies only where the specific words are all of the same nature. I'll give a simple example. Correct. If they have used the word shall there, and they say pass a resolution. If the company does not pass a resolution, so there will be no penalty. That's okay, but that is not the point. Okay, I think you are missing the point. Huh? Right? So, you give notice to shareholder, you don't give what is the CE. Once the government directs you, you can tell the shareholder at your case. But if you are going to go to the shareholder and say, pass the resolution, and he doesn't pass, what happens? That is a bigger problem. If you understand it, you understand it. Otherwise, you leave it. No problem. If you understood my point, good. Otherwise, you leave it. No problem. There is a slight anomaly in that section. If you still think that section is correct, no problem. Let us not reduce the law into futility and give it life and soul. Luckily, they have saved the grace by saying, if in case they don't do what will happen, they have given. In the old law, even that was not there. Now they have given clarity. In case the company does not do so, then the central government itself can do. That power is there now. Earlier, that power also was not there. Okay. So, where specific words are followed by general words, the general words shall take their color from the specific words. This is what the rule means, right? So, basically, what are the conditions to be satisfied? Statute contains an enumeration of specific words. The subject of enumeration constitutes a class or category. The class or category is not exhausted by the enumeration. There are still some more items that can be included there. The general terms follow enumeration. There is no indication of a different legislative intent. There is a law does not say, go beyond this, like that. Then think about it. I'll give a simple example. You will understand it better. I'm giving a list of items followed by a general clause. Just listen to me and then you tell me whether that last item should be read Aegistem generis or not. So I'm saying this. Lion, tiger, cheetah, and other similar animals. Or lion, tiger, cheetah, and other wild animals. Lion, tiger, cheetah, and other wild animals. Now, the other wild animals is a general term. following specific terms. What are they? Lion, tiger, cheetah. Now, question. Will that word other wild animals include giraffe, zebra? Will the word other wild animals include giraffe, zebra? Okay. Enumeration means listing. I have given an enumeration. See, lion, tiger, cheetah. This is called enumeration. And I'm one by one, I'm telling, counting. Lion, tiger, cheetah. That is called enumeration. Mentioning a series of words. Okay, that is called enumeration. Enumerate means to list. Sometimes in your 5th standard, they would have told, no, enumerate 5 reasons why India is a poor country. They would give 5 reasons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is called enumeration. Never and always too much. Why do you say yes, Mr. Dhyanesh? Because if you apply the rule of existum generis, see whether all these conditions are satisfied. What is the first condition? Statute contains an enumeration of specific words. Yes, lion, tiger, cheetah. Subjects of enumeration constitute a class or category. This is a crucial question. I'm explaining with an example. You are not listening. Instead, you are asking, explain. Listen to me now. I'm explaining. I'm giving one example. Lion, tiger, cheetah, and other wild animals. So, statute contains an enumeration of, yes, lion, tiger, cheetah. The subjects of the enumeration constitute a class or category. Do they constitute a class or category? Yes, lion, tiger, cheetah. What are they? What class or category do they belong? Wild animal is huge. Within that wild animal, they belong to a family called cat family. Felix, cat family. Felix Leo, Felix Tigris, Felix Panthera. They are Felix. They come under the genus called Felix. Cat. That is cat family. So, 3 items are listed. All 3 belong to cat family. Then they say, and that class or category is not exhausted by the enumeration. Absolutely. Lion, tiger, cheetah means still leopard is there, jaguar is there, panther is there. So many animals are there, which can still come into this category. So the class is not exhausted. The general terms follow the enumeration. Then the general terms shall be read as if, belonging to the class or restricted to this class. So wild animal will not include giraffe and zebra because they are not belonging to the cat family. Only other animals which belong to the cat family. This is called the rule of Justum Generis. But this is, you can apply this rule only if there is no different legislative intent. For example, later on when you come, so cannot be connected with the specific list. So, why bear? Hello, madam. Bear won't come. Bear doesn't belong to cat family. You have not identified that class or category. That is the problem. Why bear? Bear doesn't belong to cat family. See what class they belong to. So, maybe you are taking that as a class of carnivore. Carnivorous animals. You are saying these are herbivorous animals. The examples I gave are all herbivorous animals. So you are including bear there. Agreed. So some interpretation you are using there. But I can see a more clearer class of cats. So I can even restrict it further to cats. It's up to you. This is a purely, it is a intention of the court. They want, they can apply. If they don't want, they can. There they will talk about 3 different types of transactions. Like intercorporate loans and investments, they will talk about many types of transactions. In one of the transaction is acquisition, purchase, or otherwise. Okay, that is acquisition, purchase, investment in securities of any other corporate, whether by way of investment in securities of any other corporate, body corporate, whether by way of acquisition, purchase, or otherwise. Now they have used the words very carefully. Acquisition, purchase. Now you can say, sir, acquisition, purchase, sir, they are limited. And so that otherwise should be restricted. No, otherwise is a very powerful term. Whenever the word otherwise is used, there is a clear legislative intent that should not restrict it to these 2. Otherwise is a wide term. Otherwise means other than these 2, anything can come. That word otherwise, if you see it in a law, be very, very careful. Because otherwise is a clear legislative intent that that general term should not be restricted to the specific terms. Whenever you see otherwise, be careful. Otherwise is very, very big, very wide to include other categories also. For example, you have gift can be there, bequest can be there, rights issue, renunciation, buying a share on renunciation can be there, whatever categories are otherwise. I was conducting a session in the Company Secretary Institute in Chennai when one student, very nice student, very enthusiastic student, very nice student, always giving comment like that, but wrongly giving comment and all. That student was there, he was sitting in the front row, and I was giving explanation of section 370 of the good old 370, and I was explaining otherwise. To say acquisition, purchase or otherwise, I was explaining otherwise means other than these two, any other type of investment other than these two, acquisition or purchase, like that I was doing. Like some of you, I don't understand, sir. I don't understand like this. Chalo, you don't understand. I will explain it. Keep on explaining. Still that boy is not understanding. Finally, I became tired and I folded my arms to him and said, Namaste, Bhaiya. Please excuse me. Otherwise means other than wise. Otherwise means other than wise. You are wise. I am otherwise. That's all. I told him, you are wise. I am otherwise. Otherwise means other than wise. Sir, thank you, sir. Now only I have understood, sir, like that he told. But think about it. Even in this example, you have got a meaning of otherwise. Am I correct? Wise is one set. Then this universal set is there. Anything other than wise is otherwise. The entire remaining part of the universal set, outside of this set, becomes otherwise. Everything else which doesn't fit this description will be covered. Which means the minute they use the word otherwise, they are expanding the scope of that provision very huge. That the entire thing, any method by which you can acquire shares or invest in shares or securities is covered. So that is why otherwise becomes very, very exhausted means completely covered, not see, exhausted. Category is not exhausted. Exhausted means completely covered here. Exhausted. See, when your fuel is exhausted, it means it is completely used up, not excluded. Okay. I don't know what you mean by that. You are wise and otherwise. I don't know. Maybe you are right. Because somewhere, he says in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Atma, tamasav parastat. It says tamasav parastat. It's beyond darkness. Something beyond darkness. And that is also there. That is also true. Okay. God is not only light. God is also darkness. And tamasav parastat. He is also beyond darkness. So exhausted means completely used up. That's what it means. Okay. So I'll give another example. Man, woman. Of course, today we have a third category. I shouldn't use that word. That will not be a fair comment. Okay. Man, woman, transgender, and or any other or others and others. Man, woman, transgender, and others. So there are only three: man, woman, or transgender. How you can be others? What others can be there? That means what? These three together have exhausted the gender possibilities: male, female, transgender. So these three have exhausted. Beyond that, what can be there? So that is what it means. So then you can go beyond. Is the point. So man, woman, transgender, or others. So others can include artificial intelligence also. Any sentient being will come under others. That's what I can say. Some things like that. I think today class is becoming very, very esoteric and very, very complicated for some of you who are having simplistic views on life and saying, hey, chalo yaar, I want to become chartered accountant, earn money, man. Why is this fellow talking so much things like this, like that? I understand what you are doing. No problem. Just bear with me. Okay. Good. Later on, when some of you go for articleship, you will meet some brilliant chartered accountants in various parts of this country, members of my institute, who would be unique in every way. Each one of them will bring different talents and different capabilities, and they will impress you. So be prepared to meet and work with them when you do articleship. Be prepared. You'll see how CAs are brilliant. They go beyond their knowledge of income tax and company law and all that blah. They will also be having so much knowledge, practical, wisdom, experience. Try to find a good master and do articles with him and learn from him for 3 years. That knowledge will be much more useful to you than this mug up and vomit that you do for the exam, which is good. It's a foundational structure. But the real finishing will happen only in the articleship when you work with a master who can teach you. Okay. Good show. Age system generis is one important topic. Yeah. 100% you have to, it's going to come. Once in every 2 sessions, it will come. It has been repeated maximum number of times. If you don't believe me, go for practice manual and see. This has been repeated maximum number of times. Check out. So even if you don't study anything else in this topic, you study only rule of age system generis. Go for the exam. Question on age system, you will get 4 marks or 5 marks and that's it. That's playing a game of chance. Okay, I'm not suggesting that you should do that. But such games of chance are also there. So some of you who are reading the entire study material line by line, correcting it grammatically and type proofreading it, may not understand what I'm telling. But if you are really interested in, that, then you will know what I'm talking about. Important topics, practice manual, read it, understand the principles involved, have a clear knowledge, go there, write the exam clear. This is the secret of success. Yeah, it will come again, don't worry. It's a regular question asked in the exam. Mischief rule and age system generis, regular. These two are regular fellows, frequent visitors into your question paper. So kindly be thorough. See, if you want to read the entire institute material once, I don't deny you that pleasure. After that, read this PowerPoint that I'm going to share on Tuesday, Mangalwar. Not tomorrow, kal nahi, parso nahi, Mangalwar mein. Why? Because I'm traveling to Ahmedabad, back on Monday night only. So Tuesday only I can do it. So till then, please hold on. Chalo. So we have, as usual, we have made good progress. We have come up to age system generis. So instead of going to effect of usage, let me take a call here and stop the session. There's hardly another 30-40 slides left, which I can cover on 10th. And like that. So any questions are there, I'm ready to answer. I'm giving this open for any. Now you all ask any question you ask me. Now you have time, 5 minutes. I'm giving you, if you have any questions, anything, all those interruptive questions, now you ask. No, Aslam, don't read. Give more importance to it. Mug it up properly. Prepare an answer. See, go through practice manual. See what answer they have given there. And then try to write it out 3 or 4 times. Thorough it. So that if at all by luck it comes, chuck, you write it and go. This is how intelligent students create their own luck. Sometimes, when a guy gets a rank or when a guy clears in first attempt, we say, hey, that fellow was lucky, like that. He created his own luck. Or she created her own luck. It's not that luck comes casually. Okay? It's very difficult. Where can I get practice manual? I think it's downloadable from the Institute of Board of Studies portal, device portal. Or else I'm sure it's a publication sold by, I'm sure your local bookseller also will have it. Or better still, Institute, I think it's downloadable. I don't know. I think it's downloadable. Or else it may be a price publication. It's worth buying. Okay. My dear friends, you are wasting so much money for silly things. Can you not invest a little bit in books? I have seen so many students. They will spend any amount of money for non-essential. For example, mobile phone, 85,000 rupees. You don't mind spending 35,000, whatever. Maybe even 10,000 is a big amount. Yeah. You won't mind spending. But when it comes to buying a book for 300 or 400, oh, sir, costly, sir, I don't know, sir, how, sir, like that. Or else some stupid coaching class, which is of no use to you, you'll go and pay 50,000 rupees. But book is better now. Practice manual is a very good book. Just check out. See, instead of asking me, just communicate with the Board of Studies help desk. They will help you. Okay, they will help you. The Board of Studies is one of the best Board of Studies in India. We have some of the most dedicated people working there. I can assure you, the people who work there are all highly qualified, intelligent people. They are dedicating their time to see that you people get the best of the best knowledge, and you will be able to pass the exam in flying colors. So kindly bear with them. Don't be in a thing. Just out. Yes, students' journal is another thing. Just check up about practice. It is there. Practice manual is very much there. It's one of the classic books published by the thing. You know what happened when I wrote my book for CA final? When I wrote my book for CA Old Law, for CA final book I wrote, it was published by Snow White. First edition, what I did, I included questions only. In the second edition, what I did, I included not only questions, also answers. I classified the questions topic-wise, not chapter-wise, topic-wise. So, for example, ejusdem generis question will come after ejusdem generis. Mischief rule will come after mischief rule, like that. So that took me a little time, but the book was very popular. Then other authors also started doing that. Once I started doing that, other authors started doing that. And then Institute itself came in with this practice manual, which was also arranged chapter-wise, sometimes topic-wise also. You can see it. Some broad topics also will be covered in that. The idea is you'll know what are the old questions, how the pattern has come and all, and intelligently you can take decisions. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, thank you very much for your wonderful participation and cooperation. Looking forward to meeting you again and wishing you a great evening ahead. Bye.